Iowa's News Now Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks, sponsored by University of Iowa Healthcare.
This is the last time I'll ever play in Kinnick, so super exciting. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great experience.
Senior day at Kinnick Stadium. With COVID, we've had a longer chance to enjoy the careers of many of these year's seniors. Last chance to see these guys on their home field. Welcome to Eye on the Hawks. Joining us in the studio this week is Sean Bock from 24/7 Sports, a guy who's inside the Hawkeye beat and follows the prep sports scene. Sean, appreciate having you with us today. So we're going to be talking a little bit of high school football before the show ends. But Sean, first give us an assessment of Saturday's win against Rutgers. Probably the best this team has looked all year. Is this a turning point in the season, or was that fourth quarter we saw out of Iowa somewhat of a fluke?
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think so. It was definitely a step in the right direction for this Iowa team. We've seen this offense really struggle, and to see the passing game wake up, to see the defense really play, just a three-phase game was really a positive for this team.
Overall, with Deacon Hill especially, I mean, it seemed like things started just clicking with him a little bit more on Saturday. What did you see out of him that made you think that maybe this guy's starting to turn the corner a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, getting the ball to Caleb Brown was definitely a step in the right direction, and losing those two tight ends, Luke Lachey, Eric, all earlier in the year, there's a lot of question marks to see, how he could kind of get comfortable with some of these other guys. And Addison Estrenga, Iowa's got a really bright future in that tight end room too, and that was a big positive, I thought, as well.
Starting to click at the right time. Well, the task at hand is simple. A win for Iowa puts them in the Big Ten championship game for the second time in 3 years. Lose, and there's a lot more pressure to win on the road on Black Friday. But Iowa has already built a good cushion heading into the last couple weeks of the regular season. And as is always the case, the focus remains strictly on the game in front of them.
It has not been talked about one bit. It is another game, and it's another opponent who's really trying to beat us. And we know that Coach Bielema has played here. They have a lot. They're fighting for a bowl game as well, I believe. So they have a lot to gain from this win too.
Clinching a share of the Big Ten West wasn't really one of the thing guys were pretty excited about. But that just goes to our expectations for the year, and guys being completely bought in and having 100% faith that we can accomplish our goals.
And Sean, this Iowa team was projected to win the Big Ten West at the start of the season, but does it surprise you that they have a chance to wrap things up so soon, potentially with a game still left on the schedule?
I mean, we always thought that this Iowa team had a really good chance of winning the Big Ten West going into the year. Granted, I don't think anyone really took into account the injuries that this Iowa team has suffered. And, considering all the injuries and, Deacon Hill, a guy who does not have any starting experience coming into this year, to see him really thrive and, at least last week to see him thrive and, kind of see to pick things up a little bit has been, a real positive for this team.
Well, 19 seniors on this year's Iowa roster, some of whom we may see again thanks to that extra season of COVID eligibility. Noah Shannon won't have the luxury of playing this weekend, but he will be honored as one of the team's seniors. And many of these young men are playing their final home game in a Hawkeye uniform. Guys who know emotions will be running high this Saturday.
Every part that we celebrate, just the winning together in Kinnick, the swarming together in Kinnick, the waving together in Kinnick, all that stuff's going to be you're just kind of going to have to think about that, and you're going to be like, wow, it's this is the last time.
I don't know. I'm sure when I see my parents in the middle of the field, that'll be pretty emotional. But I did it last year. But when I did it last year, I kind of had a feeling I'd be back for my 6th year. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I'm going to save, me getting emotional for after the game because, last year we had senior day against Nebraska and weren't able to get the win. So it was a different feeling in the locker room. So we're going to save that for, after.
Sean, there's a lot of seniors who will be leaving the program after this year, some of whom aren't seniors, but they'll be going to the NFL draft, we have to assume. As an Iowa alum yourself, which of these seniors has left his mark on your memory the most, as a guy who's probably a fan of the black and gold?
Yeah, I mean, you're making me go back a little bit because a lot of these guys have been in throughout college when I was in college. So Joe Evans definitely comes to mind, not only that I had to do a couple of group projects with him, but he was a guy that, kind of one of my first memories of being on an Iowa beat because I went to a game, I think it was Ames High, Iowa City High for the Battle of the Boot back in 2017 it was. And Joe Evans was playing quarterback at that point.
Yeah.
Remember, he was a high school quarterback, high school linebacker. Torrey Taylor, obviously, to see what he's done as a punter at Iowa and just how he's kind of become a fan favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought that a punter would get just the most cheers out of anyone in in the pregame intros.
Well, the good news about the quarterback room, everybody that wants to return next year can come back to the Iowa roster. Cade McNamara has already announced that he'll be returning, but could there be a QB controversy brewing? Deacon Hill is coming off the best game of his college career and could be starting to find his rhythm in Iowa's offense.
Yeah, I think everything's a little more smooth for me. But yeah, I thought it was a good weekend. You know, looked at the tape Sunday, looked at it yesterday, corrected what needed to be corrected, and just looking to move forward this week.
If you're going to play this game, you better be able to take a punch, and he's taken a few of them. If you play quarterback, you better be able to get back up on your feet after you get knocked down, and he's done that.
No one expected him to be, literally at Cade McNamara's level when he first came in there, but he's a great player and he's a great worker. So over time, he's getting a lot better, and you guys are starting to see it. So we just got to keep that going with him.
Deacon Hill's been put through so much after transferring to Iowa, got thrown in before anybody would have expected to see him be ready. But based on what you saw out of him on Saturday, do you think that he's starting to get this figured out? Do you think he's starting to get more comfortable in this Hawkeye offense with some of the pieces that he has around him?
I mean, I think so, but I think I'm going to buy more stock in it after this weekend.
Yeah.
Because Illinois, if you remember last year, Illinois had a very good defense. This year, the defensive line is great. They have Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph, two guys on the defensive line that, could potentially be NFL draft picks after this year. If Deacon can build on the performance from against Rutgers and, do that same deal against Illinois, maybe even better, then I think you could buy a little more stock in him going to Nebraska and, then the Big Ten championship in a bowl game.
So it's a real credit to the whole group. They've all just kept working, and collectively they're playing pretty well right now.
Iowa's defense looms large as one of the absolute best in America, and they rank at the very top of the national rankings in one category in particular. We'll hear from Parker's posse after the break here on Eye on the Hawks. Iowa's defense continues a string of success that is nearly unmatched by any team in the country. The Hawkeyes have only given up one touchdown over their last 4 games, and through 10 weeks, the Hawks have only surrendered 1 rushing touchdown. No other team in the country can make that claim. This Hawkeye front 7 gives Big Ten offenses nightmares every single week.
We're the best defense when we're not playing, obviously. So getting off the field on third downs and helping offense with field positions are our biggest goal. And if guys don't make it to the red zone, that's good for us, and that helps that no run touchdown stat.
It's pretty darn cool saying that we've only let up 1 rushing touchdown, but we still got a lot of football left, and the goal is to continue to improve. There's certainly areas that we have fallen short.
We do have our goals that we look at after games and stuff like that. So obviously we're keen into that and keen into looking at if we met those goals, but we really haven't talked about only allowing 1 rushing touchdown.
Sean Bock back with us on Eye on the Hawks. Now, Sean, this defense continues to delight and entertain the Hawkeye masses. Are they on the verge of equaling the quality of last year's defense, or are they even close to being on that level yet?
Yeah, I said it earlier in the show. I think a lot of the expectation was there's no chance that this defense is going to be at the same level as last year, considering that Jack Campbell, Seth Benson, probably arguably the most consistent linebacker corps in the Kirk Ferentz era. And you talk about Kayvon Merriweather, Riley Moss as well, 2 guys that are in the NFL now. The linebackers, Nick Jackson, Jay Higgins, those guys have just steadily improved week by week, and have really been a big reason why this defense has been so talented.
Well, Joe Evans went through the senior day motions a year ago, but the Hawkeye captain made the decision to return for 1 more season in Iowa City. Mitch Fick talks with D-line coach Jay Neiman about the difference Joe has brought to this year's D-line.
You got to Iowa City just as Joe Evans was going into his redshirt freshman year. What have you seen from him to take him from a walk-on linebacker who had never played on the line to a team captain, an all Big Ten performer, and a guy who I have to imagine is going to be in an NFL camp at some point in his future?
Well, that's what we're hoping for, and I know that's what he's hoping for. It's just been an amazing transformation. To his credit, it's been a lot of it due just to his hard work. He came in here, just before I arrived, like you said, and just has worked his tail off, and really is a product of the system in terms of just learning, growing, maturing. A lot of that has to do with the things that he accomplished down in the weight room, just in terms of his growth as far as explosiveness, strength, power, speed. He's changed his body a lot over the course of that time. has endured some injuries, just, not major things, but little, nicks along the way and things that D linemen are accustomed to playing with. He's battled through that, a lot of that again due to his toughness and just the training that he's put in over the course of his time here. Been phenomenal. Been fun to watch. He's a great guy.
We've seen the production that Jack Campbell has had with the Lions in the NFL. Is Joe an NFL caliber guy? Do you think that he has a chance to get drafted, a free agent signing? What do you think?
That's tough because he is so twitchy and he's so good with his hands and, can move well, but he's kind of a tweener. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where things are a little tough. He can't really play defensive tackle. He's more of an edge guy, a true edge guy based on his size because you don't want to get him too big or else he won't be able to move as much. But, maybe he can fight on as a potential, undrafted free agent somewhere because, he's got the motor, he's got the work ethic, he's got all that, he's got the speed, I think. But, just from a size perspective, it might be a little tough.
He's done a great job as an assistant. Now he's had 3 coaching jobs, head coaching jobs, and been very successful everywhere. And he's doing a great job at Illinois, too.
A homecoming for Brett Bielema, the man who literally has black and gold permanently ingrained on his flesh, tries to take down his alma mater on senior day. We'll hear from the Hawkeyes and look ahead to Illinois next on Eye on the Hawks. Four years playing under Hayden Fry, 2 seasons as a grad assistant, and 5 as a linebackers coach. Brett Bielema has black and gold pumping through his veins, but on Saturday he leads an Illini team into Kinnick Stadium with hopes of spoiling senior day for the Hawkeyes.
We know that they're going to be well coached over there, because he's been a part of this program and he kind of knows, this program a little bit, and so, it's going to be up to us to be ready to go so that we can try to match the intensity and hopefully come out with a win.
He has a history with Iowa, so that would make it a lot sweeter for him to be able to win this game.
I know he's from Iowa, and I know I'm pretty sure he has a Tiger Hawk tattoo. Is that right? Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
He's always been serious about this. He's been inquisitive. He works really hard, just like he did as a player, and those things have carried over in his coaching career, certainly. So, just happy for his success and hope he doesn't have any this weekend, but after that, have at it, all for it.
Something that Brett Bielema, Michael Merrick, and Sean Bock all have in common. Illinois natives that came and went to school at the University of Iowa. Michael was in here a few weeks ago, and he told us that when he grew up, Illinois-Iowa was seen as a rivalry from the Illinois side of things, but then he came to Iowa and saw things a little differently. What's your opinion? Do you think this is a rivalry or no?
Now it is. Now it's definitely a rivalry. Considering all those years that Iowa was really able to beat down on Illinois, I don't know if you can really consider that to be a rivalry at that point, but, Kirk Ferentz, as long as he stays for the next couple years, those two are going to go head-to-head, and if Bielema stays, who knows? Maybe he'll be the head coach in Iowa City. I wouldn't put money on it right now, but, who knows? It's going to be a good rivalry for the next few years, though, I think.
Got to think that he'd at least be an interview candidate when that time comes. Well, Illinois was expected to have one of the best defenses in the Big Ten this year, and that has certainly not been the case, giving up an average of 29 points a game. But as Curtis Fader explains, it could be the Illinois offense that gives the Hawkeyes problems on Saturday.
Iowa's in the driver's seat of the Big Ten West with a 5-2 conference record, and right now there's a 5-way tie for second place in the division with a 3-4 record in conference. One of those teams in the Mastiff cluster chasing the Hawkeyes, the Illinois Fighting Illini, trying to use their aerial attack to pull off the upset and catch up to them. The team is explosive when they want to be, and it's been a while since Iowa's faced a team that likes to air it out. Illinois starting QB Luke Altmaier was out last week, but didn't seem to stop the Illini much when backup John Paddock threw for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also some key receivers for Cooper DeJean and the Hawkeye secondary to shut down this week. Isaiah Williams and Pat Bryant both combined for 1,408 yards and 11 touchdowns this season, including last week when the two accounted for 331 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns in an Illinois shootout win over Indiana. The Hawkeyes only need to win one of their last 2 games of the season to reach the Big Ten championship game, but there's a little urgency to get the job done in Iowa City this weekend instead of leaving it up to the final game of the regular season in a rivalry match on the road.
Sean, it sounds like you've done your homework on Illinois, and we may have some question marks around who plays at quarterback on Saturday. You said that Luke Altmaier, we might see him starting there at quarterback.
Yeah, I saw a tweet earlier today that Brett Bielema said on Sirius XM that the plan was to play Luke Altmaier at quarterback despite John Paddock's, Paddock, however you say his name, performance the last couple weeks and especially last week against Indiana. So I thought that was an interesting move. That's gonna be interesting to see how Iowa kind of goes about it. I mean, Isaiah Williams, I mean, the wide receiver for Illinois, you guys heard it earlier, former high school quarterback. So he's really turned it up this year, and just to see his development at wide receiver, I mean, it's been working for sure.
Something that Iowa has a lot of on that roster is former high school quarterbacks as well.
That too, yes.
Still more on Eye on the Hawks after the break, some game picks for Saturday, and we'll discuss some future Hawkeyes who are closing out their careers this weekend at the Unidome. That's next on Eye on the Hawks. Sean Bock still with us on Eye on the Hawks. Sean, you're bringing us great Hawkeye knowledge, but the prep scene is really where your bread is butters. It's championship week at the Unidome. Still a couple of future Hawkeyes on the field in Cedar Falls. Who should fans be watching for if they're tuning into those championship games this week?
Yeah, I mean, Eastern Iowa fans are obviously well aware of Derek Weiskopf out of Williamsburg, the future Iowa linebacker. We have him as a 4-star on 24/7 Sports. Really great prospect long term. I remember seeing that game against Solon earlier in the year when they lost at Solon, and I thought to myself, there's no way Williamsburg is losing another game. So we'll see what happens on Friday. But then for fans that may not be as familiar with those out in Western Iowa, Owen, I know you're obviously aware of that area, but Central Lion George Little Rock, former or future Iowa wide receiver Reese Vanderzee, plays quarterback for the Lions, and then you have a walk-on in Graham Eben. Eben's going to play safety, maybe a hybrid linebacker type at Iowa. Vanderzee is all wide receiver, and he's a guy that Iowa beat out Iowa State for in what was a really important recruitment for Iowa, considering you look at Iowa State's success at the wide receiver position over the last couple of years compared to Iowa's, and Iowa State wanted Vanderzee bad, and Iowa was able to get him. Big win for Iowa there. Vanderzee is a guy that Iowa really likes and think could be a real big threat down the line.
Well, let's get into our Week 12 game picks. Only 2 regular season weeks left for the Hawkeyes. We're going to start in the Big 12. An interesting game in Ames right here on Fox 28 at 7 on Saturday. The Cyclones have won 4 of their last 5 games. They're in a 4-way tie for second place in the conference, still with an outside chance at making the Big 12 title game. Texas just lost their star running back, Jonathan Brooks, to a season-ending knee injury. Sean, do you think that the Cyclones can upset Texas on Saturday?
I know it's the last time that Texas is going to be coming to Ames as a Big 12 opponent, and I think Iowa State's kind of using that one as motivation a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I think Iowa State can cover the spread, but I think I would take Texas money line here.
You got to think that Iowa State's going to be motivated. They're bowl eligible already and would love to get back to the Big 12 title game. Got a Big Ten West clash between Nebraska and Wisconsin at Camp Randall. 2 teams with the exact same overall and conference record. Tricky game to pick with Wisconsin favored by 5. Sean, who do you think is going to take this one?
Maybe I'll take Nebraska.
Okay. I kind of like Wisconsin in this one. I think they're motivated right now, and a Nebraska loss, that could mean trouble for Iowa when they head over there to Lincoln the next week. That could be a real interesting game. Now to Senior Day, Torrey Taylor, Jay Higgins, possibly Cooper DeJean's last game at Kinnick if he opts to go to the NFL. We've mentioned it. If Iowa beats Illinois, they can clinch a spot in the Big Ten title game 2 weeks from Saturday. Can the Hawks pull this one off?
Yeah, I do think Iowa pulls it off. I think a couple weeks ago, you look at this game and you're like, maybe not. I'm going to take Iowa in the points here. I think that performance against Rutgers, I think Deacon Hill is going to be able to build off that. I'm going to take the Hawkeyes, and I think they're going to cover.
Yeah, with the amount of emotion that's going to be flowing through that stadium on Saturday, I have to like Iowa this weekend. Well, that does it for Week 12 of Eye on the Hawks. Scan the QR code on the screen to download, subscribe, and listen to the Eye on the Hawks podcast. We have a preview podcast up and also an extended version of the show that you're watching right now. Ready for download. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Every week, we're going to be doing a live stream on YouTube reacting to the Iowa game. This week, we're on Sunday at noon. Join the stream or send along your questions. You can follow along at Iowa's News Now on YouTube. We'll send out the link from our Eye on the Hawks Twitter account. I want to thank Sean Bock again for joining us on Eye on the Hawks this week. Sean, appreciate you being here in the studio this week, and enjoy the game this weekend. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the game on Saturday.